So Molly is somebody that I have leaned on many occasions in the past, as she has done when it comes to me. We've been partners on the show for the last 10 years. And a lot of times some of these things happen and it's just uncomfortable to see.
She said, out. I was like, wow. So obviously, this is pretty obvious. At least from Molly's point of view, I don't think it was the most amicable split.
That right there was Stephen A. Smith getting blindsided by a bombshell he never saw coming. His co-host gone in a flash. Molly Qerim, the calm and steady face of First Take for over a decade, didn't quietly bow out. She stormed off the stage, and ESPN spiraled straight into chaos. She'd already locked in a massive new deal elsewhere, and insiders say the higher-ups at ESPN were furious. But what really went down?
To somebody.
News for you, you can't wake up and be Mad Dog Russo. You can't wake up and be Adam Shine. You can't wake up and be Stephen A. It takes work. In the end, we all have people to answer to.
Let's tear this open. The shocking walkout that turned ESPN upside down. What started as a chill Monday morning at Bristol headquarters turned into one of the craziest exits in sports TV history when Molly Qerim left the First Take set on September 15th, 2025. For good, not even Stephen A., her debate partner for years, had a clue what was brewing. Within 48 hours, the sports world was on fire. And ESPN's ugly treatment of its biggest talents was out in the open for everyone to see. Picture it, Molly sitting in her chair, keeping control as Stephen A. and the rotating analysts went at it, cool as ice under pressure. To viewers, it looked like just another high-energy debate show. But behind that calm smile, a storm was building that was about to explode.
We don't get to define our own value. We don't get to define our own worth. We don't get to sit there and summarily say, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to do.
Right after the cameras cut, Molly quietly gathered her things and walked out, never to return. She went home, probably thinking about all those exhausting contract meetings, those weak offers, and that tone from ESPN execs that screamed disrespect. The same execs who somehow forgot this was the woman who helped turn First Take into a ratings monster. By sunrise, everything flipped. While Molly slept, Sports Business Journal's Austin Karp dropped a report that cracked open the truth. The headline blared, "Sources, Molly Qerim leaving ESPN's First Take." Overnight, what should have been private business turned into national gossip, spreading across every sports site like wildfire. The article painted her exit as mutual, saying she turned down ESPN's renewal offer because their visions didn't align. It even claimed she'd stay until the end of the year, but that was way off, not even close.
Am I going to share it with you? No, because again, that's her story to tell. But I do think it's important that I started off the show by just acknowledging my love and appreciation for her and what she's meant to me and what she's meant to me.
When Molly woke up and saw her personal business splashed all over the internet, she made a bold, cold-blooded move. Instead of clocking in, she went straight to Instagram and broke her own news. At exactly 9 a.m. Eastern, her post had fans gasping, "It is with a heavy heart that I share. I'll be leaving ESPN and First Take effective immediately. Grateful doesn't begin to cover my 10 incredible years here." Then she added, "This show changed my life. To the fans, thank you for the love. To my team, your family. Excited for what's next." The shock wasn't just what she said, it was the timing. No farewell tour, no last episode, no emotional goodbye. Just boom, she was gone. She walked away from millions in an instant. The reaction was pure madness. In 1 hour, her post hit 500,000 views, and hashtag Molly Qerim was trending across the country. Everyone was asking the same question: how do you go from hosting ESPN's biggest morning show on Monday to quitting the next morning? And then came the moment that had jaws on the floor. First Take went live just hours later, and there was Stephen A. Smith sitting alone at that iconic desk.
When I look at the abrupt, like, nah, I'm not coming into work tomorrow.
Yeah.
That also is like, maybe there's pointing a finger at Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play it out to the end of the year and move on to your next deal. But when you don't come in, it makes me think maybe Stephen A. is a part of her frustration.
No Molly, no balance, just him, visibly shaken, trying to stay composed, but his face told it all. Disbelief, frustration, shock. This wasn't a polite send-off or some mutual agreement nonsense. Nah, this was a rage quit in real time, one of the most shocking exits in sports TV. Molly didn't just leave her job. She flipped the table on her way out. Even Stephen A., who'd sat beside her for a decade, was blindsided. Behind the scenes, panic hit ESPN headquarters hard. Execs were running wild trying to fix the narrative. They'd planned to quietly announce her exit in December, not right in the middle of football season, their most profitable stretch of the year. Now their flagship show had a giant hole right when it mattered most. And the numbers? Wild. That first episode without Molly actually pulled in 750,000 viewers, up 15% from last year. But not for the reasons ESPN hoped. People weren't tuning in for Stephen A.'s takes. They came to watch the fallout, the meltdown, the chaos. On social media, hashtag Molly Qerim exploded with millions of impressions in hours, and fans were furious. Everyone wanted answers, and ESPN said nothing. That silence only made things worse, because this wasn't just a walkout, it was years of frustration finally boiling over. Negotiations started way back in January 2025. But what should have been a simple renewal turned into an all-out mess. And this wasn't just any host. This was the woman who transformed First Take from a sports talk show into a cultural phenomenon.
And guess what? I don't give a damn what anybody say unless you have the leverage to do it. When you heard me at a time when we were discussing my contract negotiations all over the media and all throughout the sports world, what I talked about was what my worth was based on what the numbers showed. I talked about these are the ratings. This is the revenue.
Under her leadership, the show's viewership skyrocketed 45% from 2015 to 2024, making ESPN over $100 million a year in ad revenue. Meanwhile, Stephen A. Smith was stacking $20 million annually, while Molly Qerim, the co-host who kept the show flowing, was being offered crumbs, a wild 40-to-1 pay gap. ESPN's final proposal, a 4-year deal worth just $700,000 to $850,000 to start, with a 5% yearly raise and $200,000 in bonuses. Sounds okay for some, but for the woman who helped make First Take what it is today, straight disrespect. And get this, ESPN wanted her to prove her versatility by spending 20% of her time on side gigs like ESPN Plus docs and women's panels. Translation, make her work more, pay her less, and dilute her brand. Insiders close to Molly didn't hold back, calling the offer insulting, treating her like she was replaceable instead of essential. Now here's the shady part. The very same day Molly's exit hit headlines, ESPN proudly announced a brand new multi-year deal for NBA reporter Malika Andrews. The timing was too perfect. Fans immediately started suspecting ESPN already had her replacement lined up. That leak was the breaking point. After months of disrespect, seeing her contract drama leak to the world was too much. Molly wasn't going to let ESPN control the story, so she took it into her own hands.
One thing she didn't mention was anybody by name, including Stephen A. Smith. Now, I've left a show or two before, and trust me, you're going to name some names when you leave that. Just think about Shannon Sharp when he left Undisputed. Goodness, it took about 10 minutes of all the names he dropped. That's my point. Molly didn't do that. So that lets you know already there's some friction behind the scenes.
Even ESPN's president of content, Burke Magnus, had to come out spinning damage control. He told The Athletic the leak forced our hand. His excuse? Negotiations weren't totally aligned on roles beyond First Take, but we wanted Molly to stay. She chose a clean break. That's corporate talk for we messed up bad and she called our bluff. Truth is, ESPN never believed she'd actually leave. They thought she'd cave under pressure. But Molly turned the tables and walked away on her terms. In doing so, she pulled the curtain back on ESPN's messy power politics for everyone to see. And just when the story couldn't get any crazier, boom, Marcellus Wiley, former ESPN host turned podcast heavyweight, dropped a theory that rocked the industry. 5 days after Molly's exit, his YouTube episode hit 1.3 million views and flipped the script. According to Wiley, Molly didn't just quit. She played chess while ESPN was stuck playing checkers. This wasn't just about salary, this was about power. Wiley claimed she felt boxed out by Stephen A.'s growing empire and decided to make a move ESPN would never forget. By quitting during the height of football season, she sent a loud message. She wasn't replaceable, she was the show. Stephen A. isn't just a star, he's an empire. His contract? $105 million over 5 years, plus another $12 million from SiriusXM. That's $40 million a year. He's not just talent, he's an executive producer who calls shots behind the scenes, deciding who shines and who stays in the shadows. Wiley pointed out the uncomfortable truth. Stephen A. has gone to bat for plenty of people. Kendrick Perkins, Dan Orlovsky, Ryan Clark all got boosts thanks to him. But when he's not in your corner, your growth stops cold. And according to Wiley, that's exactly what happened to Molly. Think about that. If Wiley's right, Molly wasn't just negotiating with ESPN. She was indirectly negotiating with Stephen A. too. Imagine being the woman who built First Take into a juggernaut, only to realize your future depended on whether your co-host thought you deserved it. That's not partnership. That's control.
News for you, you can't wake up and be Mad Dog Russo. You can't wake up and be Adam Shine. You can't wake up and be Stephen A. It takes work. In the end, we all have people to answer to.
And Molly Qerim wasn't having it. She took her power back with one bold move that ESPN never saw coming. And the receipts check out loud and clear. Just take a look at First Take's messy history. It's all right there. Max Kellerman, gone in 2023 after clashing with Stephen A. over control. Shannon Sharpe bounced right back to Fox after running headfirst into ESPN's tight power circle. The pattern couldn't be more obvious. The network let one man hold too much weight, and now everyone else is paying the price. But Marcellus Wiley dropped the most damning piece of proof, the way Molly walked away. When someone leaves after 10 years, you expect a warm goodbye, right? Maybe a few kind words, a little tribute, a heartfelt thank you from the people who shared the screen with her. But in Molly's farewell post, she thanked the fans, called her team family, and didn't mention Stephen A. Smith once. Not even a thank you after a decade on air together. That silence, it was loud enough to shake the whole internet, and the tension wasn't just one-sided. When Stephen A. announced her departure live, he kept it cool, sure, said a few nice things. But you could feel how stiff it was. No emotion, no spark, just straight corporate vibes. Then reporters pressed him for details, and he snapped back with, "None of y'all business." That's not a man mourning a teammate. That's someone hiding the real reason she walked. Insiders claimed their partnership had been crumbling for months before the exit. Production logs reportedly showed Stephen A. dominating each episode, talking for nearly 65% of the show while Molly barely touched 20%. She went from being a co-pilot to just a referee, setting up Stephen A.'s rants instead of steering the conversation like she used to. And fans were catching on too. In 2024, one clip went viral when Stephen A. cut Molly off mid-sentence, saying, "Molly, I'm talking here." He played it off as a joke, but fans weren't laughing. That moment blew up online, hitting 500,000 views and sparking the hashtag #LetMollySpeak. Viewers flooded the comments, calling out the disrespect, saying Molly deserved better after carrying that show for years. Behind the scenes, insiders painted a picture of total control. Stephen A. wasn't just taking over the airwaves, he was calling every shot. From segment topics to guest lists, sources say he routinely bypassed Molly's input, shaping First Take exactly how he wanted it. Molly wanted to share the creative wheel, not just sit there refereeing his debates. But week after week, her voice got smaller, while his got louder. And then came those on-air jabs, the ones fans never forgot. Stephen A. throwing shade about Molly's diet, her personal life, even slipping in digs that referenced her 2021 divorce from Jalen Rose. To some, it sounded like playful teasing, but a lot of viewers saw it as out of line. And according to someone close to Molly, she didn't find it funny either. She felt undermined, uncomfortable, and stripped of the authority she worked her whole career to earn. All of it built up to a boiling point, and that leak was the final spark. Marcellus Wiley's theory hit hard. That leaked contract report wasn't random, it was the trigger. When Molly saw her business out in public, she didn't fold, she flipped it. By walking out on the spot and leaving Stephen A. to carry the show solo, she sent a clear message. First Take needed her way more than she ever needed First Take. Social media exploded. The hashtag #MOLLYSREVENGE took over timelines, clocking over 5,000 posts in just hours. Polls showed 65% of fans agreed Molly had been massively underappreciated at ESPN. People started connecting the dots Wiley had laid out. How Stephen A. dominated every moment while Molly faded into the background. The imbalance wasn't subtle anymore. It was screaming from the screen. But Marcellus Wiley didn't just call out Molly's situation. He went straight for ESPN's system. His sharpest shots were aimed at the machine itself. a setup where one man's power could make or break entire careers. According to Wiley, Stephen A. Smith wasn't just another face on TV. He had access and pull most hosts could only dream of. He allegedly knew about staffing changes before they were official, weighed in on executive moves, and even had the power to push or block contracts behind the scenes. That meant success at ESPN wasn't just about skill anymore. It was about politics, alliances, and keeping Stephen A. happy enough to keep your name in the mix. That's straight toxic. Imagine having your career depend not on your talent, but on whether your coworker decides to vouch for you or not. That's how someone as key as Molly Qerim could suddenly find herself boxed out, not because she couldn't perform, but because she didn't have the right person fighting for her. And just when everyone thought the chaos was finally dying down, boom, another bomb dropped. The story blew up again, sending shockwaves through sports media. While ESPN execs scrambled to spin the narrative and Stephen A. tried to act unbothered, something huge was brewing behind the curtain, a full-on bidding war for Molly Qerim's next move. The first big twist came just 4 days after she walked off set, and it came from a wild source. The U.S. Sun broke the story that Fox Sports had slid a monster offer across the table, one that made ESPN's so-called final proposal look flat-out disrespectful. We're talking about a 3-year deal paying $2 million per year, with bonuses that could boost her total to between $2.5 and $3 million annually. That's no raise, that's a full-on power play. Now let's put that in perspective. ESPN's best offer capped out around $850,000. Fox was putting down more than double that just to start. For Molly, who'd been earning about $500,000 at ESPN, this wasn't a small bump. This was a 400 to 500% pay leap. That's not just more money, that's generational leverage. But here's the real flex. Fox wasn't just offering cash, they were offering respect. The deal set Molly up as a top-tier multi-sport anchor, with spots covering NFL studio shows, college football previews, NCAA basketball broadcasts, and even her own branded podcast. Most importantly, it gave her the one thing ESPN refused to hand over: full creative control as a lead host. At ESPN, Molly was treated like the traffic cop, keeping debates organized while Stephen A. ran the show. But at Fox, she'd finally be in the driver's seat. No more setting up other people's takes. She'd be the one leading the conversation, steering the energy, and calling the shots. And those incentives, that's where Fox really showed how bold they're playing. Up to $500,000 in bonuses were tied to one mission: outrating First Take in the key 18 to 49 demographic and with female viewers. Translation: Fox is betting big that Molly's loyal fan base will follow her, and they're aiming straight at ESPN's heart. This isn't even a new strategy. Fox has done this before. When Shannon Sharpe left ESPN's orbit, he brought his credibility and audience right along with him. Skip Bayless proved long ago that personalities, not logos, are what drive the numbers. But Molly's situation hits different, because she's not being cast as anyone's sidekick anymore. She's being positioned as the face, the main event, the franchise player leading her own empire. Industry insiders say Molly's playing this like a pro, keeping the tension high and holding out until late October to see which network ups the ante. She's gone from being undervalued and underpaid to one of the most in-demand free agents in all of sports media. And now she's calling every shot. So what's next? Is Molly Qerim about to flip the whole sports talk world on its head? Will she leave Stephen A. and ESPN in the dust while cashing checks with Fox? Or will she wait it out and squeeze every last dollar from this corporate tug of war? Let's hear it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, share this story, and make sure you subscribe for the next twist, because this saga is far from over.